I do want to remind everyone that all of the videos and the PDF, oh, gotta keep track of the chat too. Okay. All of the videos and whatnot are on the professional learning resources website that's been sent out before. And everything is underneath technology and Lumen. So if there's anything that I run through too quickly and you're like, what did she say? Or I want to see it for the old version instead of the new version, all of the assessments, 101 trainings are in there under Lumen Assessments 101. So we're going to go through pretty much all of those if we have time to get through everything. So I'm going to start by going to my Lumen. I am going to do this as if I am in the new, mainly because eventually they will phase out the old version called Legacy. I know I still tend to use Legacy way more than I do the new. So it's good, the more we use it, the more we'll get comfortable with it. I will note, if you play around with creating assessments in Lumen eventually, that is currently only in the Legacy. They have not moved it over to the new yet. So all of creating assessments has to happen in the Legacy. So I'm going to sign in. Feel free to follow along if you want or if you can. The doorbell. Okay, so as you can see, I'm into my classroom and it starts me. Oh. Rachel, I'm glad you finally made it in. I know you were having trouble connecting. We're just getting started and I logged in as in the new system is where we're at right now. So this is my Lumen training class. Typically it says Algebra 1 here for me, but I'm in a fake class at the moment. What you want to do is go into your instructor course. And we're going to find an assignment. Sorry, the doorbell keeps distracting me. We're just getting started. We're in Lumen in the new. Feel free to follow along. I went into my training class, and off to the side in the new is where all of your options are. It opens up a little bit different. So I'm going to go to my assignments. And you can see I've already got one posted in here, but I'm going to show you how I got that in there. So we're going to go to add new. Actually, sorry. We're going to go to tools. And you're going to go to add from district curriculum activity master. This is what you do when there's already an assessment created and you just want to go find it. So let me make sure everyone's okay here. I'm going to go back out as if I just came in. I'm in my courses in the new. I click on one of my classes. Off to the left, I'm going to go to assignments. And then there's a small tools icon with a drop-down menu. If I get too fast, unmute and holler at me, and I'll slow down a bit or throw it in the chat, and it pops up for me that there's a chat. We want to go to add from district curriculum activity master. This will bring you to a pool of activities that are already created. You can search by activity name. If you do that, it searches the first word is what it's looking for. So if I type in, for example, algebra, anything titled Algebra 1 or has algebra in the title first shows up. See how everything is algebra, algebra, algebra. If instead I wanted to check for checkpoint, oops. Notice it didn't find any of those activities because the word checkpoint was not first. So that's a bit annoying. It helps to know the first word of your search. However, there's other options. So I can instead go to just my curriculum area and I can just see what is in here for English language arts. I have to hit search. These are all items that have been posted for ELA. I can scroll through it like here's my 7th grade unit 1 common assessment. I can pull that in. Another option is to search. If you are doing benchmarks, for example, we've put them all into activity units, so they're super easy to find and you don't have to search by word. I'm going to go to activity unit, and for example, I want a math 7 through 12 benchmark. So I click on that and hit search. These are the only options I have because those are the only ones in that unit. So benchmarks are organized for you. If it's something you created or something another teacher created, you're going to need a keyword or a subject area to search by. So I'm going to pull one of these in to show you what it looks like. You select the test you want, put a due date and a date assigned. I'm going to put this back to a couple months ago in August, so it doesn't show up randomly for kids. And I'm going to put the due date as the 11th. We have people joining us. Okay, as people join, just to catch you up, we are in Lumen already. I'm showing everyone how to pull an assessment in. I'll go through the steps one more time so you can see it again. We're in new. We go to my courses, pick your class, and on the left are assignments. Once there, you want to go to the tools button, add from district curriculum activity master, and then we search. This time I'm going to search writing. There's nothing for that. Let's search 7. Okay, I'm going to pull a 7th grade second quarter ELA benchmark in. Set your date assigned. I'm going back so that way it doesn't show up for my students if they would happen to log in. Oops. Okay, once I do that, you can see it has pulled it in. If I pushed it back to first quarter, you may not see it unless you go back to your first quarter screen because I dropped some of them into first quarter. There we can see lots of different assessments. Let's see, the next step, once you pull it in, it will not show for the students until I actually give it an assignment type. I have to tell the computer, is this a homework assignment? Is this a test grade? Is this a quiz grade? What is it? So I'm going to go back to the 7th grade one that I pulled in. And as soon as you open it, you're in general information. This is like if you were to create something from scratch, it's the main screen that you fill out. And I'm going to go to classroom assignment type. It's the second box. And you have to assign it. Now, I have lots of options because of the school that I'm assigned to. Some schools, you're only going to have 3 or 4 options here. It just depends on which school Lumen has you assigned to. So I might mark this as a benchmark assessment if I have the option. It might be a chapter test. It could be an essay. Just mark it what you need it to be. And then you can either do save and finish or save and edit. The only difference, save and finish is going to kick me out because I'm done. Save and edit will allow me to keep messing with the settings. I like to hit that often so I don't forget to save. The other thing that I have the option to do right now, as I have this test in, the kids can see it, the kids can take it. Even though it's assigned on a certain day and due on a certain day, the way the system has it, they can go ahead and go in and take it. If I want to keep them from being able to take it, then I want to go to the student portal tab and I want to set a time frame that they're allowed to take this. I'm going to do that first. I'm going to set the start time as first thing in the morning, and I'm going to make the end time 4 o'clock p.m. If you set those times, it's going to be on the due date only that it is open for the students. I'm working with Lumen to try and get this adjusted because it doesn't make much sense. It should be open during that time frame, anywhere from the date assigned until the date it closes. However, with students at home, if they're taking it at home, I would not set a time limit on that and just leave it open for the kids. There's no reason to set it. This is more for when they're in class with you and you only want them to take it during your class time if you're fourth hour and you only want them in during fourth hour. Okay, other settings. You have the option to allow a test to be submitted more than once. I can keep the first one, I can keep the last one, I can keep the highest score out of the submissions. The kids can see both of their submissions or all three of their submissions. It will only show us right now their last one or their highest score, depending on how you set that. Again, working on Lumen to get that fixed. When I explain to them, I want to see their worst submission and I want to see their best submission so I can see what they did differently. They're continuing to work with me on that one.
When
And then,
you
yeah, go ahead.
when you say the kids can see their submissions, does that mean they can see what they got right and what they got wrong, or they can just see their score?
It'll show them their score and it'll show them which questions they got right or wrong. The only thing
Okay.
it doesn't show them is they don't see the question anymore, but it'll say number 1 correct, number 2 incorrect, number 3 correct, number 4 incorrect.
Okay.
So, and as long as I don't have it set up to mix up the questions, then if they know they missed 5 and 7, when they go back to retake it, those are the 2 that they're needing to fix. So that is pretty good for the kids. What you don't want to do is put no limit on submittals. That seems to have been causing some issues. So you could do allow to be submitted as many times as defined, and then I can type in they get 10 tries. Why on earth would I want to give a kid 10 tries? Well, just for example, for one of my classes, we put in a review, and there were 15 review questions. And we had it set so that kids could, right here, interactive checking. We clicked yes. So the kids could see, yes, I got it right. No, I got it wrong as they take it. So they would click it and it would tell them, no, that's not correct. So they could keep trying that review as many times as they needed before the assessment. It was not in the grade book, so it didn't hurt their score or help it, but it allowed us to give them automatic feedback. So they could review for their tests. They knew which ones they got right, which ones they got wrong, and they could go back and retry it as many times as they wanted. So I found that super helpful, and the kids liked having the instant feedback that they knew what was right and what wasn't. So just an idea of why you might want to do that. For the checkpoints that I've done in my class, we give them 2 attempts, and it keeps their highest score of the 2. And they know that they have those 2 attempts. So you can set that however you want for the settings, or you can just make it 1 try only. The retries is if you have the interactive checking. So if I say retries are not allowed and I have interactive answer checking, it'll tell them, no, you didn't get it correct, but it's not going to let them try the answer again. If I change that to unlimited retries, or they can either count the points or not count it. So what that would mean is if it doesn't count for earned points, even though I guessed 4 times and finally got it right, I only got the points from my first attempt. But it still lets them figure out what is the correct answer. So lots of different settings in here that you can play around with. If it's for benchmarks, you're not going to mess with any of those settings. You're just going to make it 1 time only. One thing that Lumen has fixed, and I cheered, was it's always been review or resumable if the internet kicks them out, or if their computer battery lost power and it just shut them out. They were able to get back in, but it wasn't saving any of their work, which was incredibly frustrating. So I discussed that with them, and 2 days later they had it fixed. So now as kids are working on an assessment, it is auto saving their work. If they close out, if they leave, as long as they don't hit submit, they will be able to resume that test and keep going, and it'll save the work that they had done. So that is super exciting, especially when we have technology hiccups. We don't have to worry if the internet suddenly kicks all of us off. It's auto saving their work. At worst, they might lose the question they were on at that moment, but and I'll show you how the students do that here too. I want to finish the settings so we can see it from a student side as well. What am I forgetting in the settings? Oh, for those at the middle school and high school, if you have course groupings and you go in and change the date. So let's say I had some students absent and I have to open this back up and I have to push back my due date. Up in the right hand corner, you have a setting that says post to my group coursings. Uncheck that when you update the date or it duplicates it into your courses again. So just make sure if you go in and reopen dates, don't post it to your group coursings. Otherwise, your coursing groups, I said that backwards. Otherwise, you'll end up with 3, 4, or 5 copies in your other classes, and you don't want that. Just a few things we've learned along the way. Oh, and make sure students may submit materials online as clicked yes. They do not need parent permission, and it may be completed through student portal. This is what allows them to log in and take the test. You also have, if you don't want to do a due date, you can just do submission closed by instructor, and it's going to stay open until you go in and shut it down. That would help with having to reset the date if you've got kids out on quarantine and you know it might be a week before they get it done. Okay, as always, I'm going to make sure I hit save and edit. I'm going to take these times off so that way it's open for me to take it. Real quick, what questions do you have just on pulling a test in through the district curriculum activity master?
Are the tests that are in Lumen already, have they been put in through like our curriculum coaches, or are they just anybody can put them in at this point?
Anyone can put them in. Anything that is a benchmark, to my knowledge, has all been put in by a coach. So
Okay.
the ELA, the math, I do believe social studies might have at the middle school started putting things in. It depends on who came to trainings this summer and who didn't. So I will post some videos second quarter of how to create assessments so that if you want to go in and play with that yourself, it is not intuitive your first time, but once you've been in there and you've done it, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's just finding it the first time is a little confusing. Good question. Anything else? Okay. And if you missed it earlier, I did explain that all of the benchmarks that are given are in these district learning activity units. We tried to make them as easy to find as possible. So your pre and post are in there for first quarter, and pre and post for second quarter will be added shortly if they're not already in there. All right, so let's look at the student view real quick. And then if we have time, we'll come back and look at the grading of it. I want to make sure you get to see what the kids see on their end. While I'm in here, I will show you where to find their login. So middle school, high school, most of the kids log in on a regular basis to check their grades. Elementary, a lot of the kids never go into Lumen. It's their parents. So if I need to know my kids' logins, what I do is I go to my grade book. I have to think through it in the new because I know exactly where it's at. And Legacy, it's a little green key at the top of your grade book. This one is under. Aha. There's a little person icon in the top right once you're in your grade book. It's called Online Access Assistant. When you click on that, it brings up a list of your students. So this is test student 3. Their location, you don't really need that because it's the same as your login for your building, like 12 or 3 or 6. I hover over the user ID and it shows me what they put in for their ID. And if I hover over the password, it shows me their password. This will work at middle and high school if you have students that get locked out and forget their password, unless they've hit a setting that makes it non-viewable for us, and then we have to let technology take care of it. So that is super helpful to know if you plan on taking that in the future. And they should not change unless for some reason a student goes in and changes it on their own. All right, let me log out and log in as a student. Okay, so this is a student in my fake class, and this is what your kids would see when they log in if you've assigned them a test. If they don't see this, the first thing I would check is, did I put an assignment type on the test? If there's no assignment type, the grade book doesn't recognize it because it can't give it a grade in your grade book. Even if you mark it as ungraded, it needs an assignment type. They should have this button that says view submissions. This is a test that I had already started. Notice it says over here, continue test. This has caused some confusion for kids. I'm going to go back out to that screen for you. Kids will get to this and panic because it says view my submissions. If they were in a test, got kicked out, they have to click on view submissions and then continue test. Let me see if I can go back to quarter 2 so we can see some new ones, or quarter 1. If they have not taken the test yet, or I've given them 2 or 3 submissions, they'll have a green button here that says start submission if it's their first, or another submission if it's their second or third attempt. So that if it's green, it's like green means go. You have an attempt, you can go ahead and start with this. This one shows that I got 24 possible points. I only got 2. Didn't do so good on that test. So I got an 8%. Right here is the start new submission button. So I failed this. I'm going to go take it again. Once I click start new submission, it's going to open up the test for me. And this is what it looks like. Maybe not quite as friendly looking as Schoology, but it's not terribly different. This one has reference items attached. What that means is there's a graph, or there's a story, or there's a paragraph that they need to read. It's right below the question. So I can open up, that's just the standard. Here's my reading. I need to read this. And I'm going to go back up when I'm done and answer my question. There's another option if you don't like having the reference items below, but that goes into creating assessments, so let's not go there right now. So the student's going to go through, select their answers. I'm probably not going to do so good because I'm guessing on this. If they want to change their answer, they can just click on a different option or unclick it, and it unchecks the box. I want to show you how they submit. I'm going to leave some blank and see if it tells us. Okay, this one is a short answer. Let me show you that again because I did that too fast. It tells them to write their answer in this space. If it's a composite answer, it's going to open up a separate page for them. So this is where I type my answer to the question. They can see their answer, and if it's blank, it means they didn't actually apply their answer in that spot. All right, at the very bottom, they must submit their assignment. There is this silly button next to it that says to clear the form. I'm not sure why a kid would want to clear their entire test. If they accidentally click it, it does at least ask them, do you really want to do this? Hopefully that helps them if they're a little click happy. Instead, I'm going to hit submit. Yes, I really want to submit. Now I can see, well, I did exactly the same somehow. I got 2 points again. Didn't really do too good on that. If I click on my score analysis, this is what Angel I was telling you about, it shows them it's incorrect. If I, the teacher, had graded it and given them comments, it's going to show up right here. So on some of our checkpoints, I would put a comment for the kids, like you flipped your slope upside down, so that they would know why they missed it. They can see the question, but not the answer choices that were the options for it. So that is the basics of the student view. Again, if they're already done, it'll say view submissions and show their score. If they can continue, that is where they keep going with their tests. It will save their progress as they go. They just have to know that it'll say view submissions even if they haven't submitted it. What questions do you have about student view?
Amanda,
Yeah.
okay, so especially at the middle school, if they go into Lumen multiple times throughout the day, will that test just keep popping up every time they go in there?
So their stream will look similar to this one. These are tests I've done. There's tests that I've already finished. They're going to stay up there. It'll also show my final score over here once the teacher has scored it. If there's too much on that stream and they can't find what they need, over here where it says course, I can just see my math course or I can just see my ELA course. So that really helps for kids that teachers are using this in a lot of their classes. I don't know of a way to make it go away, but it won't necessarily let them keep submitting because you've limited their submissions.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. The other option too is if this is a lot for them to look at, they can click on a date on the calendar and you see how fast it scrolled down to that date. So we can organize it for them that way too by telling them to, click here or click there, and it's going to zoom down to that date on the calendar for them.
And do I see that like they put them in order from oldest to newest? So if you want the newest one, you have to scroll all the way down to the bottom.
That is the way. I have not found if there's a setting that we can change that. That's where I think the calendar is helpful for the kids. That if we're on September 30th, I'm two computers. I can go down here to October and click on the 16th and let it take me down to things on the 16th. So it'll be teaching the kids those little tips. Most of my students, granted, I had freshmen, so they're a little bit higher level at that point, but they had figured out the calendar on their own without me telling them that. And then we together figured out that I can just see my history class or I can just see my math class. So that way they can sort their activities a little bit. If you put anything in towards the end of the quarter, it scared us at first. The kids logged in and we had reopened everything for retakes at the end of the quarter, and we'd put the due date after the end of the quarter, and their screens were blank. There was nothing showing. Well, if we changed the due date to a second quarter date, then they had to come up here and look at second quarter assignments. So it at least does give them a blank slate at the beginning of each quarter. It's only going to show assignments for that quarter. Good questions. Anything else that comes to mind? Okay, I'm going to go back out and show you then once the students have completed the test, what it looks like to score it within your Lumen. Again, I'm going to use the new one just so we can get used to using it, but it's pretty similar in the old version if you prefer that yet. We've learned enough new things this year. I completely understand if you want to stick with the legacy. About the only thing that's different in grading it is how you open the test. Everything else is pretty similar. All right, so I'm going to go back to first quarter because I have more options to grade in there. Go to my assignments. And let's see how many have finished this third grade test. So first thing you do is you open the test that you want to grade. Click on the additional info and see where it says scoring key items in this top left tab. This big red bar tells me somebody has started the test. The minute a kid starts the test, that red bar is going to come up even before they submit it. What it's doing is it's locking down my test. I can no longer change the answers. I can no longer add questions because it is in the grade book and it is starting to grade the scores. I want to go to view student submissions. And normally this is going to look a lot bigger because I'm going to have a lot more students. I only have 2 test students in this class. They didn't do so well on this one because there's no answer, no answer, no answer, no answer. The green check mark tells me that they've completed it. They hit the submit button. This student has not submitted. So the no answers make sense. This kiddo submitted it and still does not have any answers in there. Couple things that you can do here for a kid. In the new, you do have the option to submit the assignment. Let's say the kid had started the test, you knew they started the test, they just didn't hit submit. I can go ahead and submit that as an instructor. Or this kiddo, I'm like, hey, you have no answers. What the heck's going on? Yeah, I didn't really do it. Okay. I can go in and reset student submissions. This is only going to reset that student if I do it here. If I come up here to save, I have the option to lock submissions. Let's say I've only got 2 kids that have permission to continue the test because they're on quarantine or they were absent. I can lock it for everybody else and then go to just the student that needs to take it and unlock the activity. This will allow that kid to go in and take the test, but nobody else has the access to go in and take the test. So that's super helpful too.
Amanda,
Yes.
if you go in and you say, oh, you submitted, but you skipped questions, I'm going to reset it, will it wipe out all of their answers then?
Yeah, it will completely wipe out. One thing I've had to do in the past, I had a student that had about half the questions done and they hit submit because the bell was going to ring. Once they've submitted it, I can't unsubmit without deleting their answers. So what I did in that case was it had already graded the answers they had done. I went, let me save these changes real quick. I went and I downloaded the results as a PDF for myself. And I got this little report. So I already knew, okay, the student A had 1, 2, and 3 correct, but 4, 5, and 6 wrong. And then I opened it back up. I unsubmitted it and I told them only do questions 7 through whatever. So then they didn't have to retake the 6 they had done, but I still had their scores from the first 6 and I had them quickly. So that's one workaround. The only way that won't work so pretty is if you have to grade by hand some of the questions first. But it is at least an option. Hopefully that doesn't happen too much. It's kind of a case by case. So let me go to a test that has some answers and we can actually see. I know I took several of these. I believe more of them took this. So again, once you're in the test, you go to additional info to see their answers, scoring key items. It's always good to do it more than once. It helps us remember it. And view their submissions. Aha. They've taken this one a little more realistically. The student has correct, correct, correct. It shows it green. Incorrect here. If I want to see what they answered, I can click on it. I can see what they answered, and I can also have it show me what the correct answer was. If I want to, let's say I realize I marked it wrong, or actually what they did is still technically correct. And the question is up here. If I want to see the question, then I can go out here and click on this little dot, and it's going to go ahead and give them the 1 point. What is that called? Instructor assigned points. That's showing that the computer didn't give them the points, but I did because I was giving them credit for that question. If I click the little circle twice, now I've marked it incorrect. If I click it again, it goes back to blank. So let's say this student had it correct, but for some reason my answer key was wrong and I need to change it. If I click it twice, they now get 0 points for it. So it's pretty slick and quick. If I want to see everybody's answers, there's this little magnifying glass and I can click on it. And now I can see that who got it correct, who got it incorrect at a glance. Multiple choice is not going to show me their A, B, C, or D answer. This is more handy for graphs and short answers. So if they had to put in a 2-word answer, let's see if I have one of those. Oh, actually that was one and I closed it. So these are some where the kids had to type in their answer. They typed in 564, 564. So those are good. If I come back over here, 36 and $36. Let's say my answer key, I had not put a $sign and this kid had, and it marked it wrong. That's where I want to go ahead and edit and give them credit. Notice it brought me back out, but it's flashing. I'm gonna show you that again. If I'm looking at everybody's answers and I find one that I need to fix this, they do need the points. If I click on edit, it's gonna flash their name or their box for their name. Now I can see that I need to give them the point. Yes, it'd be nicer if it just gave them the point right there in that screen, but it does at least flash that, hey, you want to change this answer right here, and it brings your attention to it. What I have done I find like 8 or 9 students that they just had answers that were correct and I didn't have them in as the answer key, I'll just jot down for myself. These 8 kids get credit, and then I go back in real quick and click, 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 click. Notice up here, it's telling me, hello, you need to save your changes. I can make all the changes I want and give off all these extra points. If I do not hit that save button and I close out of this, nobody got the points I just gave them. So when you're doing that, you have to make sure, oops, if you've changed scores and you've given points, you have to come up here and it'll tell you you've made 8 changes. I want to save those changes. So it's kind of nice. It at least makes it bright colored so my eyes kind of see it. Hey, don't forget to save this. What am I forgetting? You can change their scores. You can see all of their answers. If it is a composite answer, which means it's a long answer, you do have to open those one by one, and you open it by clicking on correct. It won't say correct or incorrect. It'll say, let me go to a test that has this. Okay, so you see how they all say no answer? That means I just skipped through those as a kid and I didn't actually answer. If the kid answered it and I need to check it, it's going to say answer needs reviewed. And then I click on it and that'll tell me here's their answer and I can decide what points they get on it. Again, the best way is to read it, close it, and then you click on it. Notice when I clicked on that, it gave them 3 points. So this was a 3-point question. By clicking it, it gives them full credit on the points. Let's say this student did earn a 3, but this student only earned 1. I can change that to a 1 myself. Okay. But if you click once, it gives them full credit. You click twice, it takes away all credit. What questions do you have on grading or the view? Oh, this is the other symbol I forgot to mention. If it's a clock, it means they are in there. They have started it, but they just didn't finish it. Whereas if it's blank, they have not even started that submission. And a green check mark means they're done. They completed it. All right, what questions? I know that was a lot, and then I'll show you how to export the data. That's the last piece that you may not need for just individual classroom assignments, but for benchmarks, it's super helpful. Okay, I'll show you how to export the data. Excuse me. Up here, there's the little printer icon. I'm still in the student answers. So I had clicked on view student submissions. And there's the printer icon. If you go up there, you have the option of PDF or CSV. If I'm doing my data sheets and I'm going to put this into the Excel document, that's the one I want is CSV. I click on that. I hit download. The nice thing is this is one download. You no longer have to go to Lumen and get your student roster and then go to Schoology and download your answers, or Google, whichever one. It's all right here. I am simply going to cut all of these. I do not need the last row. The last row is the total points earned. You can skip that one, but I'm going to take all of these other rows. I'm going to control copy, and then I'm going to go and paste them into my Excel sheet. First quarter, if you haven't already, most principals just wanted you to download this, print it, and turn it into them as is. I'll do that one more time just so everyone can see it again. You look for the printer icon at the top, CSV file, and download. And if you've already graded your student scores, everything will be there. I'll mention again, this was super helpful. If I had a student submit and they weren't actually done, I went ahead and downloaded their results first, and then I unsubmitted. So that way they only had to retake the questions that they had not done yet. Every once in a while you get a kid that gets click happy and hit submit for some reason before they're supposed to. All right, we still have about 10 minutes. So what questions, what other things can I show you within Lumen assessments?
Amanda, do you mind walking through again how the students log in and where I can find their login information?
Yes, I can definitely do that.
Thank
Okay,
you.
I'm gonna show you first where to find their login information because that's in my grade book and I can find that while I'm in this screen. So if I need to know my student login, I'm gonna go back out to my grade book.
Okay.
My grade book, I only have 2 students, you'll have a lot more. In new, you wanna come up to the little person icon in the top right. If you're in legacy, it's also in the top right, but it's a little tiny green key looking icon. And we're looking for online access assistance. Once you click on that, you will have all of your user ID and password. One downside, you have to hover over the stars to see it. What I did for the first time I did this, I had a Google Doc open next to me and I'd hover over the user ID and I would type it into my document. And then I hovered over their password and I typed in their password. It did let me take the names and I was able to copy and paste the student name straight out of Lumen so that I didn't have to type all of that. And I made a document for myself. I know it's an additional step, but at least we can see it for the ones that don't know their ID. Most elementary kids, it'll be their graduation year, the first 2 and the first 5 of their name, like their typical login, but it's not for everybody. I don't know if it was certain years that kids were added, they didn't do that. Some it's just their graduation year, their first initial, last initial. So definitely go through and check those. You could skim through and like this one is graduation year, first 2, first 4 of the last name, and it has an additional number. I could just go through and find the kids that don't use their traditional graduation year, first 2 initials or first 2 letters of their last and first 4 letters of their 5 letters of their first. I'm probably saying that backwards, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So, and then the password is hovering over. I have found a few middle school and high school kids that it tells me I can't see it. And if that's the case, I have to go through technology to find out what those were. If you're at the high school, they can go up to the help desk and get that fixed. There was one other thing I was going to mention. And if you hover over somebody and it doesn't show a name, let me know about that and I'll pass it on to Freeman. Something went wrong with the upload. I think I found all the students in 3rd through 6th grade that had that issue. But if not, let me know and we'll get it fixed. Or if it says no_grad_date and then their name, please let me know. Something happened with when they uploaded them into Lumen and I'll get that fixed for you. So that's where you find their passwords. And then the students can log out. They go to Lumen the same way that you would. And this is the screen that they need to be at. Their location ID is the same as yours if they're at the same school as you. So if I'm at the high school, I type in 16 because that's my location. This account is under Augusta, so I type in a 3. I type in the ID and password that I showed them. And when they log in, they shouldn't have to go anywhere. Their home screen should show their assessments for them. This is showing me 2nd quarter right now, and I only have 1. I can continue that test because I didn't finish it. If I go back to quarter 1, these were my quarter 1 assessments, and I've taken everything that I can. If it's green, it'll say start submission, and that means they have not started any of them yet. And that's all the kids need to do is go in and take it and hit submit. Okay, as always, if you have questions, let me know. I have done a lot with the Lumen assessments. If it's a gradebook issue or other Lumen topics, that's more of a Freeman or Carmen question. They might be able to help you with the assessments as well. You can always just tag both of us and one of us will get back to you with an answer. And on the PD website, if you want to find that through the school district website, I'll show you where that's at. Under the staff tab, it is teacher resources and opportunities. If you click there, that takes you to the website. And from there, you just want to go down to resources and training, find technology, and then go to Lumen. And that'll take you to all of, he also, Freeman has created other tutorials if you're just not familiar with the new at all, but you want to start using it. he has some just basic Instructor Suite type videos. And then below that are the Lumen assessment videos. You can either watch the video or just view the PDF. Both are located at the same place. So if you prefer Legacy, those are there too. I really appreciate so many of you joining me this morning. As benchmarks get closer and you want to try this, just let me know ahead of time and I'd be glad to run through things if you need help with it. If there's something that happens while the kids are trying to take it, shoot me an email and I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. Most of the time I can. I teach first hour at the high school, but otherwise I should be able to. All right, if you don't have any other questions, I'm going to let you all go. I hope you have a great day. I'll stick around if anyone does have other questions and you want. Thank you so much for coming.